Welcome to my first raw cuts video from the studio where I go through a full painting process, many days of work, and give you some behind the scenes conversation as I work through um, the process, the challenges, the planning, and even the mistakes in one of my painting projects. So this is a new video for me. I hope you enjoy the stillness of it. I really like videos like this. It might not be for everybody, but it's generally quiet and you'll feel like you're in the room with me and trying to figure out how to do my new family portrait approach, where I'm going kind of against the traditional grain with portraits and experimenting with something new in a Japanese inspired style for this family. So I hope you enjoy. Let me know in the comments if you like this type of video, and we'll get some more raw cuts coming soon.
Alright, today I have a couple hours this evening and I'm done with faces, and now I'm trying to figure out like what to do next, because I am really still trying hard to break my typical approach, which is like obsessive perfectionist. I made up my mind that I'm gonna try this product I got, Galkid Light. You can use it with your oil paint to thin it out and get it almost liquidy. Then I'm going to absolutely try to use this time, because this represents freedom. I can't control this the way I do when I get nitpicky about my painting. So let's see what we could do with color and take some risks. Oh, scary, but good. Okay, so here I have a plate, and oh my gosh, it seems like every time I record, there's noise. So of course my dog is scratching the ground now. But I'm going to try gold, of course, as my first layer, because usually the gold in people is not at the top. You have to dig to find it, right? So we're going to try to play with some of this really liquidy gold now and spread it on there. Taking risks today, way out of my comfort zone. Let's see what happens. Okay, that's not bad at all, actually. It's pretty translucent, which I like. I can see that in a way. Alright, so today is an exciting day because I plotted everything out. I've taped off sections. I've made some decisions. I think I know. Hi. Sorry about that. Okay, so it's an important day today, exciting day today, because making progress. I've taped off these different sections. I've made some decisions about how I want the wood to show. That's one of the reasons I wanted to use wood, because I feel like the Japanese influence that I'm trying to bring into the piece will be achieved with some natural wood showing. I just want to like honor the natural element that this is on by letting it be exposed in certain areas. So I've taped off just a few sections where I'm going to peel it off at the end, and then figure out a way to either like apply gloss and varnish over just those, like touch them up really gently to bring out the beauty of the wood, or maybe like a light stain, something like that. Still deciding, but like today is really important because I've done, as is my process, a whole family study. So I've been studying everybody in the family, what their names mean, their heritage, and then that's like the first step in the family portrait, is to feel like I get to know the essence of who they are as individuals and also as a family unit. So it's like, who is this family as a whole? And then I want to bring out through the different elements the individuality of each of the members. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm using more traditional painting techniques on their face, and I'm going to use a more patterned approach to their clothes, which you see a lot in Japanese art. Again, getting to play with that like cultural kind of element, which is so awesome and so fun. And then the other step that I often will do is like I'll keep a notepad around, and it happens at the weirdest moments. I mean, I could be driving, I could be doing anything, and then I'll just think about the people in this family, and I'll get little tidbits of information, little light bulb moments about them, and then I just jot them down and keep like this little collective list. And then I start putting together imagery with what these little things are. For example, Mom was telling me that she really likes being in the background. She's not a spotlight person. And I was thinking about that about her, and the first thing that came to mind was that wallflower, this idea of a wallflower. And so I jotted that down, and then a little while later I got a specific flower, like, oh, okay, that flower makes sense. And I just feel like God just kind of partners with me in some of these things, because it's not like I'm doing research on which flower. The flower just comes to mind, and it happens to have these characteristics that are really similar to what she was telling me about her personality. So I'm like, that is a perfect depiction. So my goal today is to really just come in and figure out, how am I depicting all of these elements in her clothing, and that's where I'm going to display it. So it's left unfinished for a reason. They're going to turn into like patterns that tell stories. So we'll see how this goes. I'm so excited. These are the flowers that came to mind, were moonflowers, and so I just sketched a couple of them out. And this area here is going to be dark. They bloom at night. They bloom when it's dark. So this part of her clothing is going to be dark background. The moonflowers are blooming, and then up here we're going to do a light background, and some of the moonflowers closed, and create almost kind of like a Gustav Klimt kind of pattern going on here. More two-dimensional and flat, while her body and who she is going to be more three-dimensional. We're going to leave some of the clothing fading into the background, kind of how she described herself. So some of it will just kind of fade off into whatever's in the background there. These lines are representative of kind of like the Statue of Liberty. So Lady Liberty is something that I thought of for her, and kind of referring to our liberty in Christ, and that she's a representative of this. And so I just wanted to add a little touch to the outfit of almost that draped fabric that you would find on the Statue of Liberty, like a subtle hint there. And so I'm going to start painting now and start blocking some of this in with colors that are symbolic of her name. So her middle name is Claire, and an English translation of Claire is like the word clear. So there's colors associated with that word. In that language, it kind of denotes light blues and light greens, so I'm going to definitely incorporate this light blue and light green, and then dark background, which was my first inspiration for her, which was alabaster, which is so funny how it all kind of tied together. I had no idea what I was going to do with alabaster, but it's obvious that this is all starting to match in terms of color scheme, so we'll see if I could get a couple of the stones and maybe lay it into her dress too. That would be really, really cool. Okay, correction to my previous recording. It's not alabaster that I'm talking about for Mom's dress. It was actually abalone shell, which, if you could see on my computer here, this is what the inside of an abalone shell looks like. And what's so interesting is it happens to be a gourmet delicacy in Japan, which is really cool. I didn't know that. And so obviously this fits perfectly with what I'm doing. And I was thinking originally of getting some beads, but I'm changing my mind. After studying these patterns, like when you do a really tight zoom in on the back of the shell, just these amazing natural patterns, and the gradient of color, the way it just kind of goes from cold to warm, is so stunning. Why don't we use what God already designed? I don't need to add to this. This is incredible. So I'm going to use this as the inspiration, see if I could get her clothing to make that transition from the cool to the warm. So let's go. Okay, so now we are prepping the outfits. I know it's weird to do this separately instead of doing like a full covering of gesso first. I had to do it in sections because I wasn't sure where the exposed wood was going to be. So now I kind of have to backtrack, and I'm glad that, you know, the gesso is a little bit translucent, so you can still see some of the sketches under there, but definitely need to cover all of this wood where the outfits are. Well, well, well. So if you could see here, guess what I had to do? I had to start completely over and buy new panels. Why, you ask? Because I can't believe I did this, but I skipped a step in prepping the surface. And if you know anything about painting, the surface is everything. Prepping your surface is everything. So unfortunately, I had to go and buy a brand new set of these. I had to size the wood first, which is the step that I skipped, with some pH neutral glue. And now it's ready for the first layer of gesso. And after that we have to prep the back as well, which gives it more longevity. And I just can't believe it. So here we go. Get moving on these. Alright, so this is much more tedious than a typical surface prep because I'm wanting to leave like some exposed wood here. And so this just really complicates how you prep the surface, because you need to protect the bare wood in a completely different way than the painted areas. So I have taped off like there's going to be two kind of bars of wood going up and down the side, and then this circle around the couple. Which is going to be, I want to just make use of that bare wood and allow some natural elements to show through. But that also means that not only is the painting going to be tedious, but so is the surface treatment here. So I have to like gesso the base of where the couple's going to be separately and touch it like ever so perfectly to get like the complete outline here. So I just made like a general outline, but yeah, this is a completely new way of doing this. We'll see how this works. But like each section of this wood is going to be having something different happening on the top of it, and so it's really, really important that the wood is sealed for the right thing wherever it's going to be. So all the white is where oil paint is going to be, and the other elements. And then on the actual wood, exposed wood, we're doing some polyurethane, like a satin finish right now. I was thinking about gloss. I really want to also emphasize a few different finishes in this family portrait, like making use of some areas that are more glossy than others. I think that just adds another layer of dimension and depth to it. So we'll see which one it is. I have to kind of pick whether I want the wood to look more glossy, which would be nice because it's wood, versus the painting itself. So we shall see. Alright, one more thing about painting on panels. If you've never prepped a wood panel before, this one is different than what I usually use, because I usually use panels that are already, they're called gesso board, and they already have the gesso on top. So this, I had to use some PVC glue mixed with distilled water to apply, like to seal the wood before I put gesso on it. So in order to prevent boards from warping, you want to do this on the back as well. So I flip them over. I'm going to just paint this PVC glue as a way to seal up the wood and prevent any of that, any future curving or warping of the panel itself. So here we go. One more step in the prep. This prep has been very thorough, to say the least. So many steps, but it's going to be really worth it, because You know, when somebody's purchasing a piece of art like this, a full family portrait, I just know this is an investment in something that's going to be like an heirloom for the family. So everything has to be as perfect as I can possibly get it. It dries pretty quickly. It'll start to get tacky because you'll feel it's kind of resisting the brush a little bit. Just a thin layer is going to do it. And it dries clear so you can't even tell, which is nice. I'm going to just do this on the back of the board itself, but then as a finishing touch, I already started putting some satin polyurethane on the cradle part, this framed part here. Those pieces will have polyurethane to bring out the natural beauty of the wood and protect it, especially since it's like 1.5 inches thick. Some people paint the sides, but I mean, this wood is, I just love, who doesn't love natural wood, you know? It's just like, let's do the honor of bringing the wood to its most beautiful presentation and allow it to do what it does. And another thought that I had was, as I was looking at everything, I think the back of this reminds me a lot of those sliding doors that you often see in, like in Japanese houses in architecture. They look like they're paper and they have, you know, framed wood, and you see a lot of like, there's just a lot of geometric lines. They often have like almost like a grid pattern with the white translucent sort of screen, and then they close off different rooms with them, which is what I want to do with the back of this. I want to make it give that same feeling because I feel like it already does, and so it'd be such a nice effect.
We're currently, the stage we're currently at here, we got everything blocked in, and it looks like it's getting to a place like for finishing touches. But one of the things that I'm trying to implement is this idea that when you have this kind of accurate, like tight painting perfection, that you're willing to break it in the process of finishing. So as not to be like obsessed with the outlines or the clarity or, you know, ruining anything that you have here in a way. So what I'm going to do is use some of the gal kit and go in with very thinned out paint, and I'm going to use kind of like this, it's kind of like one of those spatula things that have gotten really popular, and just spread the thin translucent paint across, almost like a sumi Japanese ink. I'm going to try to play with the background a little bit and see if I can mimic some of that technique with the oil paints and put some symbolism in there. So we'll be back. Let's see what happens.